Kia ora, welcome back. I'm the Kiwi Coder, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can export your Blender model from Blender into Unity. And so in Blender, I'll show you how to set up all the correct FBX settings, export settings, so all of your animations come through correctly, and also your textures as well. And then in Unity, we'll take a look at the AssetPostprocessor using a Blender importer script just to automate setting up some of the FBX import settings per model. And the other thing we'll look at is what's called the Preset Manager, which does kind of similar things to the post processor, but lets you kind of just apply settings to models per folder, which is really powerful. Cool. Yeah, so let's get into it. So I've got a character in the scene here that I'd like to get from Blender into Unity, and one way to do that is just by importing the .blend file directly into Unity, but I wouldn't recommend that. It's not that well supported, so instead I'd recommend using the FBX exporter, which you can access under this menu here, File Export FBX. I use this all the time, so if you actually right click on this option here, you can create a shortcut, and I like to bind it to Control-Shift-E. And now this menu option is bound to Control-Shift-E. So if I hit Control-Shift-E, I now get the export window, which is really handy. So there's a whole bunch of settings which are kind of sometimes they're specific to your character on how you want to export, but these are the ones that I'm using currently. So I like to have active collection set, and that just means whatever collection I have selected, it will only select that and everything underneath it. And that way I can sort of separate my characters by different collections in a blend file. And yeah, I deselect all of the other stuff except for mesh and armature. And under transform, I've seen quite a few different YouTube reviews on this. These are the settings I tend to use. I have FBX all selected, -Z for forward, Y for up, and a tick for apply unit. And that sort of seems to give me a scale of 111 and a rotation of 000. The other thing I just want to point out quickly is if I just close this for a minute, if I select this character, what I've actually got is a rotation of 90 on the character, and that just reverses the left and right hand coordinate system difference between Blender and Unity. So the way I did that was I typed 90. It's not going to work now because I've already done it, but if I type 90 in and then hit Control A inside object mode and hit apply all transforms, then that will reset this back to 0. And then all I need to do is just type 90 back in, and that will put the character upright but with a 90-degree rotation. And now that basically undoes the difference between Blender and Unity. So yeah, just make sure you have 90 degrees set on the x-axis, and that will ensure you have a rotation of 000 when it comes through to Unity. And yeah, I have scale set to 1, etc. So for the geometry, the only thing of interest is really apply modifiers. There's basically mesh modifiers in Blender, which can create more geometry and stuff. But it's nice to leave them active in Blender and only apply them at export time. The next one is the armature. Pretty much everything is default except for deselecting add leaf bones and just checking only deform bones. So I'll just close this for a minute again. Basically in my rig, I've got 2 sets of bones. Basically I've got all of these ones. These bones are used for skinning the actual character, and they have the deform box checked, but my rig itself, which I use for animations within Blender, these bones here, they're also bones, but they just control the position of the actual skinning bones, so I have deform unselected on those ones. So that just means the rig stays inside Blender and Unity only gets the skinning bones. And so that was the armature section. The next section is the bake animation. So you have the option to bake NLA strips, and NLA strips I don't use it much, or haven't used it at all. Basically I've got all these actions in Blender, and each of these just represents like an individual animation. NLA strips let you string together multiple animation clips, or multiple actions into a single NLA strip, which is basically just a single animation clip. So for example, if you had an attack animation and you wanted to create a new NLA strip that would string 3 attack animations together, that's where you would want to have this ticked. I don't actually have any NLA strips, so I just leave it ticked and it doesn't cause any issues. Yeah, cool. So the last thing I just want to point out, which is really useful, is the operator presets. So once you have your setup that you know works for you, you can create a new preset by clicking this plus thing, and I like to call it like Unity Export, and hit OK. And now I can just go back and select these settings, and it will automatically remember my last export settings, which saves a ton of time. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it for the Blender export part. So I'm going to create a new FBX file in this this empty Unity project called hello unity.fbx, and I'll just export this. And now I have a whole new FBX file called hello unity. If I drag this into the scene, you'll notice that the color is wrong. It's basically because the textures have not come through yet. So if you switch over, select the FBX file and switch over to the materials tab, you'll see this textures field here, and it's currently grayed out, and that just means the textures haven't come through from Blender. So popping back over to Blender, when we hit export, there is actually another option here which I forgot to mention called the path mode, and this is for textures. It basically just sets whatever path up in the FBX file. So if we set it to copy, then it will just copy the textures with the FBX file, and this button here means it will include the FBX file, the texture inside the FBX file. If it's deselected, then the texture will just be exported alongside the FBX. So I'm going to leave it selected for now, and just hit export FBX again, and going back into Unity. Let's hope this has worked. Yeah, so if I hit refresh, you'll notice that the extract textures button is now visible. So if I, you can't actually see the texture in here yet, but if I hit extract texture, just asks you for a folder where to put the texture. I'm just going to put it in the root of assets. And yeah, now you'll see that the texture has actually come through from Blender, which is quite nice. The other thing that you can do is also extract the material. There's currently a material inside this FBX file, but you may want to share that material across multiple characters. So I'm just going to extract that as well. And I have some error here, but I have no idea what that is. So yeah, now I have a material with the correct texture, and I can modify this texture and change the color of the character if I wanted to. Cool. So the next step is when I select this FBX file and go to the rig tab, the animation type is set to generic, and I want to use humanoid. So I could just go and change it to humanoid here, but I don't really want to have to do that for every single character. So instead, I can show you how to write a script to do this. So if we open, create a new C# script, and I'm just going to call it Blender Importer. And we're going to use the AssetPostprocessor. So the AssetPostprocessor is an editor-only script. So we need to use the Unity editor namespace. And rather than inheriting from monobehavior, it's going to be AssetPostprocessor. And so I can just delete all of these lines here. And if I just grab the documentation quickly, this is the AssetPostprocessor class, and these are all the functions that you can override. So it's basically split into 2 sections. One is pre-processing and one is post-processing. So pre-processing is for basically before Unity imports the model, you can give it a bit more information and tell it how to import it. And post-processing is for just modifying the import afterwards. So you may want to optimize keyframes or remove keyframes or something like that. But yeah, there's all sorts of functions like animation, audio, cube map, sprites, textures, etc. But the one that we're going to use is called, the one that we're going to override is called on pre-process model. And this basically gets run before any kind of FBX model is imported. So we can just get the model importer by casting down the asset importer as a model importer. And using that importer, it's now really easy to just set the animation type to the model importer animation type .human. And basically this model importer is, if we just quickly switch back to Unity, the model importer is what you see when you select an FBX file. It's all of these properties here. So if there's anything in here that you want to change, you can just you can find it on the model importer and modify these settings. So you notice that it's still generic right now, but if I right click on the asset and hit re-import, ta-da! It's now set to humanoid, and it's also created an avatar automatically for me. So if I were to re-export this from Blender, it would automatically come through as humanoid and just save me a step, which is quite nice. So there is actually another method to achieve this, which I want to just quickly cover as well. So I'm just going to delete this, or I'll comment it out. And what we're going to do is select the FBX file, and we're going to use the Preset Manager. So let me just show you that. It's under Project Settings, Preset Manager. So in here, you can basically assign presets to different asset types when Unity imports them. So to do that, we need to basically create a preset for the model importer. So you just click this preset button up here and just go Save Current To, and the default name is FBX Importer. So this is for characters, so I'm going to call it FBX Importer Characters, and I'll just save it in the root of my project for now. And now if I select this thing, all of these settings here I can customize. So I've got it already set to humanoid, but let's say I wanted to also generate light map UVs. I can just tick this here, and now using the preset manager, I can create a new group here just by going add default preset and going to importer and then FBX importer, and this has created a new section up here which I can then assign that preset to. And in this filter, it lets me basically filter by path. There's kind of a special syntax. You have to write glob colon space, and then just in double quotes you put your sort of path expression. So I'm going to start with / to let the folder be sort of anywhere inside the tree, and I'm going to give it a name characters /star. So basically what this means is it's going to apply this these settings inside this FBX importer asset to any model that's imported into a folder called characters. So that's a mouthful, but if I create a new folder here, for example, called characters, and now, so just to remind you that this code is now commented out. So if I go back to Blender and hit Control-Shift-E and re-export, but this time into the characters folder. Actually, let me export two of them. I'll export one into the characters folder, and the other one, as soon as it lets me, I will go up and I'll just call this Unity 2. Cool. So going back to Unity now, and just hit refresh. So I have these two new assets, and Unity 2 has come through with the animation type of generic, but the one inside the characters folder is automatically come through as humanoid, and that's because of this FBX importer option that I've set up in the preset manager. And this is basically a file name path, so you can create multiple of these as well. You can have one for animations, one for like weapons, models, and have like slightly different settings here, and then you can basically apply different filters to different folder names. Yeah, I'm only just starting to scratch the surface on this now, but it seems really powerful, so just wanted to show you guys that. So it's basically all the filtering is just done on file names. Sometimes that's not good enough, so there are some more things that we can do. For example, on this inside this FBX file, under the animations, for example, all of the animations that have come through in this FBX file, if I select them, you notice none of them are looping, but actually I want all of these animations to loop. So I could sort of again go through by hand and just select loop time, etc. But that is going to be pretty annoying having to do that. So we can automate this using the Blender importer script. And just before we get into that, I just want to point out that there's there's kind of two types of animation clips in an FBX file. So all of the ones that you can see here, these are actually kind of Unity created animation clips, and the ones that are coming through from Blender, like all of these ones, they are actually inside this dropdown, which is kind of confusing. So let me just kind of illustrate that. So if I were to hit plus and create a new animation here and call this like walk forward test, enter, and I just need to hit apply. So you can see that Unity has now created this new animation here called walk forward test, but in this drop down it doesn't appear. So these are called source take animations, and these are the animation clips that sort of Unity creates on top of the ones coming through from the source file, because you can sort of apply metadata and stuff like body orientation. You know, you can customize this source animation clip. Yeah, so that's kind of an important distinction to make just before we get into the second half of this asset post-processor script. So to set all of those animations to looping, we can override what's called on pre-process animation. And again, we get the model importer much the same way as we were before. But here's kind of what I was talking about before. So inside the model importer, there are two fields. One is called default animation clips, and one is called clip animations. And both of them have got this model importer clip animation and default animation clips. I think they are, yeah, they are the exact same type. But the default clip animations, this is the one that is coming through from Blender. And the other one is sort of the ones Unity creates. So first we need to get a reference to the source animations. And now we basically want to check if we have any animations at all. And if we don't, basically just return, just bail out early. Otherwise, we can loop over each one of these clips in the animations. And we can just now assign properties like this loop time equals to true, and this loop time, oh sorry, return 0, return nothing. So this loop time value here, this, let me just show you this in the inspector, it's this one here, and you can also modify all of these other properties in much the same way. So if I select any one of these clips, they all have their own instance of these properties. So for now I'm just going to modify the loop time, and finally we just need to then do something kind of weird and assign the clip animations back from those modified animations we created up here. And that will just sort of recreate these animations here that you see in the FBX. So now if I re-import this FBX file, you'll notice that that test animation disappeared because I'm now just taking the default clip animations. But if I select each one of these, the loop time has actually automatically been set, which is just saves you some time. The other one I find I always need to set is this body orientation. Unity likes to try to figure out the original orientation from, I think, the feet position, and it's just never quite what I want. So for me, I'm probably going to just set that to original every time as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video. I don't really think I have anything else to show. I basically just wanted to cover those two things. So the asset post processor, this thing here, and all of these different functions that you can override. You know, one other thing that I forgot to mention is maybe you don't want all of your clips looping, so you could name your clip, you know, tag on like underscore loop or something to the end of your clip name, and just check for that in here, and that way you could sort of have conditions and stuff to filter out by clip name, that kind of thing. But yeah, so the asset post processor is really good for just automating some of the settings that you have to manually set up in the inspector. And the other thing is the preset manager, which yeah, I'm not too familiar with, but it seems really cool. And yeah, you can just set up all of the custom sort of properties and stuff you want in data. So it's really just a difference if you want to have these assets here and set all those properties in data and just have them automatically applied by the preset manager, or if you just want to do everything by hand in script. There is actually an intermediate part where you can use the preset manager in your post-processor script. There is an object API, I believe, but yeah, I haven't really gotten to that, so I'll let you guys figure that one out. And yeah, okay, well that's it for this video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I really hope that this has given you some ideas about how you can make the export process from Blender to Unity a bit more streamlined for your project. And yeah, well, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to stay tuned, then please hit the subscribe button. I've got tons more videos coming. I'm trying to do one a week at the moment. Just yeah, trying to pace myself and not burn myself out. So let's hope I can keep that up. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video. Ka kite!